Perfect. Well, Kristen, I really appreciate you hopping on again for round two. Why don't you do again a quick intro on who you are?
Yeah, I'm Kristen. I've been gamer and nerd like my entire life, and fitness was never really like a thing for me as a kid or really as an adult. I never did like any sports or anything, and so I kind of had a lot of ups and downs with being really good with fitness for a little while and nutrition. The best time I probably ever did it was like the year leading up to my wedding, which, I had like a big goal. It was to
Hmm.
be, as, aesthetically pleasing for myself as I could be. But then just really struggled with, being really good for like maybe 3 to 4 months and then getting sick or something and then kind of falling off and then getting back on. And I work a pretty sedentary job. I do IT, so obviously lots of sitting at desks, but also a lot of like moving heavy equipment. So gaining strength was also kind of something I wanted to be able to help move that equipment. But yeah, so I, just kind of needed help with that accountability and really just kind of getting out of that like endless cycle that I felt I was in.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when we first spoke, just over a year ago. It was I start something, I'd see results, but maybe not as fast as what I'd want, and then I'd give up because I wanted, got a little bit of shiny object syndrome and wanted to start something
Hmm.
new, and then you'd
Yeah.
cycle through that like 3 month period over and over and over again. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think the biggest thing that we just focused on was consistency over anything.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest change was just the mindset, because for me, like once I was like, okay, I really want to, and before we worked together, I would be like, okay, I really want to get this under control. I really want to try and lose some weight and whatever. And doing the eating was probably the harder part in the past, but the exercise was never the hard part, because once I really did it for like a week, I'd lock in and be really
Hmm.
good. But then, it would be I would get sick, or something in my personal life would happen, or work would be really crazy stressful. And it would be like, well, if I can't do everything perfectly, then there's no point, and why should I bother?
Yeah.
And so I would frequently just kind of fall off and then basically lose all that progress, and then I'd have to start over from square one again. And so I was when I reached out and started working with you, like it was never the exercise part was never going to be the hardest part, and I didn't think thought nutrition would be a little hard in the sense that sometimes I would want more, but eventually like that always became really second nature. It was
Hmm.
definitely the mindset part of not beating myself up if I had a day where maybe I ate a little bit more, like on the weekends, saw family and stuff. It was definitely the mindset part that was, I knew would be the most challenging. Like, how am I going to keep doing this for, however long, or how am I ever going to make this a lifestyle change? Because I had obviously lost weight in the past, which I was like, okay, I know I can do that. It
Hmm.
definitely works for me. But like, how am I going to keep doing that? How am I going to sustain that, for the rest of my life? Because as I approach, I'm like now officially in my mid late 30s, how am I going to keep doing that? Because now it's not just like an aesthetic goal, it's like I want to be healthy as I get older and not,
Yeah.
I see a lot of my friends' parents, getting sick and unwell, and not being able to do things they used to. And I want to try and, be healthy for future me. So yeah, it was definitely the mindset part that was definitely the hardest, in general. But I feel like I really like locked in on that with your help. So that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The diet and exercise is the true fountain in youth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How? Okay, so we throughout the year that we worked together, obviously a whole lot has happened between life stress, work stress, con stress, and so I think we talked about this on round one, but so we'll be a little redundant here. But with that all or nothing mindset being something of, I'll say like the main hurdle that we were trying to chip away at,
Hmm.
how did we navigate that during cons, life stress, and just everything else, work stress, everything else that can come up?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, and it was definitely something that you really kind of like instilled in me in the beginning, was just like the consistency is what's important, and keeping, I feel like the phrase keeping momentum going was the thing that saved me when I was having either like a harder day, or, maybe I ate like, because when I go into the office, there's like days where there's free pizza and Chipotle and catering for like three different meetings.
Hmm.
And there's, maybe a day where I would have a slice of pizza because I was like, it's been a really hard week and I haven't had pizza in like 3 months. Like, I want to have a slice. But then later I would kind of feel a little bit of that guilt creep in. But then in my head, I would remind myself that I still did, I would remind myself of the good things that I did for myself, like drink a lot of water or, got my steps in or did my workout. And then I would also think back to like, well, remember 4 months ago when you had that like spicy Korean fried chicken and you are like X number of pounds down from then, or your lifts have gotten this much stronger? Like, it's not that one meal that is going to ruin everything. It's if you continually do those things that it's going to offset your progress. So just remembering to keep the momentum. And then even times when maybe I was sick or, maybe just really not feeling well one day or maybe really not feeling as strong one day, I would at least, either maybe shift the workout to the next day, or I would, still try to do the workout, but just say, okay, instead of doing like the weight that I've been doing, why don't I just drop it by, X number of pounds? So
Yeah.
rather than just doing all of it perfectly or nothing at all, just doing something, because then that's like it's keeping the momentum moving. You still did the thing, you're still staying in the habit. And I feel like in the past, that's what would kill me was, well, if I can't do it, I'm just not going to do it at all. And then it's like when I was playing The Witcher really, really consistently, and then I went to a convention, and then it took me months to pick it up again, which is
Yeah.
such like an easy thing, right? But it's hard to get that momentum back when you lose it. It just like you have like a steam train going and then it like slams into a mountain or something, I don't know, and then think of how hard it would be to get that back up and running. So just trying to do little things to keep it moving, even if it's like a fraction of what you normally do.
Yeah.
Being able to recognize that and say, okay, let me just try, let's do this at least. And then the next day I would just be like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna get back into my routine and keep
Mhm.
going. That was huge for me in keeping up for an entire year so far.
Yeah, 100%. And we've talked about them. We call them BAMs, bare ass minimums. And it's like, okay, if today's not the greatest day for a workout, what can you do? We do daily movement like walking and stuff like that. Just keep up with your nutrition. A lot of times it's what can you do? Like as far as movement,
Hmm.
is it a 20-minute walk? And then can you just keep tracking your food? And so
Yeah.
like if those are your BAMs pretty much every day and you keep doing that, you're going to see results really just by doing that. Um, but really, I would much rather have you, and we talked about this, phone in a workout where it's like, look, today sucked. I just went through the motions. I dropped the weight by 20 pounds and I just went through it rather
Hmm.
than saying I skipped it because I wasn't feeling 100%. And I
Yeah.
think that was kind of like that big mindset shift moment that we had.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Do you ever play the old Assassin's Creed games, like the original ones?
Actually, yeah, I remember playing the first one back when I worked at GameStop because we could basically rent the game for free. So I
Oh,
remember I took
nice.
it home and I played it. And yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, where they were not episodic, but they were level based. You had to like go into the Animus and like sink into a level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you had to try to like 100% synchronize with the level. So like if you did everything all
Oh,
right,
yeah, yeah.
I Assassin's Creed 2, I would quit as soon as I was not 100% synchronized. So I'd restart the level over and over and over again and it just pissed me off to where the point I don't I think I did beat it Assassin's Creed 2, but it was like I got halfway through I was like this is just stupid, so I'm just going to run through the rest of the game. But that type of like all or nothing, min max, I need to have everything perfect is what keeps people from taking action. And it's the same thing that these completionists is what stops
Yeah.
people from enjoying the games because they see it more as a chore
Yeah,
rather
that
than I'm
happened to
just
me in
going to,
Persona 5.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
you said
like
that. Why don't you talk about that?
yeah, I was one day off from this like perfect min-max guide and I was like, "Oh, well, not going to play anymore." Because I couldn't do the perfect get all of the confidence and whatever. I was like, "Screw it," you know? So, yeah, I mean that mindset carries over into other things, not even just like fitness. It can carry over into things as small as games or probably even like work life and friendships too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like playing D&D where all the sides of the die are a 1 and then there's 120. And so like if you're not rolling the 20, you're crit failing. That's how most people
Yeah.
see fitness.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true.
Nice. I want to talk about nutrition because the first thing I want to talk about is cravings because I know you have been locked into nutrition. And so can we talk about that and then how you manage cravings? Yeah, and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, maybe I'm like a psychopath or an outlier. I mean, I just ate the same I eat the same things almost every day. Like I was actually thinking to myself yesterday that this specific kind of chicken that's like prepackaged, I have eaten it for an entire year. And I can still eat it and I just find ways to like spice it up. So, I guess like in some ways I would find ways where, I had the nutritious thing that I had got for like my meal plans, like this chicken. Originally, I would be eating it just bare ass grilled chicken with broccoli and rice. And people
Hmm.
at work would be like, that looks depressing. I'm like, well, it's helping me with my goals, so, it's a means to an end.
Right.
But my husband and I really were kind of craving like I mean it's there's so many different restaurants that are like this like Sarku chicken or like Quick Way where it's like got that like nice kind of like sauce that I think probably has like a mayo base or something. But we had that actually a couple months ago, and we split that into like two. So that's one thing I would do is if we were really craving something, and you kind of like helped teach me this, which I've done it in the past, but you really kind of helped me like think about it again was, allow yourself to still have these things every now and then,
Hmm.
but like bank your calories. So I'd be like, okay, well, I know that this meal is going to be a lot of my calories for the day. So why don't I split this in half, have that so I still get to have that food, but I'm not eating all of that and then having a whole other meal after that. So I would either
Yeah.
have half of it or my husband and I would split things. So, because he was also, kind of doing everything with me, even though he can eat way more than I can. um, but the other thing would be where when we had that, we kind of had a moment like, wait, we could like make this kind of. And so instead of just having that bare chicken rice broccoli, we have like just 15 grams of like the Kewpie Japanese mayo, and we have this like 35 calorie just like Japanese kind of like I don't think it might be like a teriyaki sauce, but we realized when we put a serving of each of those things, it's like 135 calories for the two of those things. But we when we ate it, we were like, "Oh my God, this is literally that chicken. Like the same. It tasted exactly the same, and it's actually literally what I just ate for lunch today."
Nice.
So it was also like not only just like the kind of portion control and kind of spreading things out a little bit, but also finding ways to kind of like hack these things that I liked eating that I knew were not going to really be super helpful for my goals.
Hmm.
But also just every now and then indulging in it, not making it an every single weekend thing. My husband and I used to get Taco Bell every Friday. And then one time after we started working together, when I looked at how much I was eating, I was like, oh my God, no wonder I never was losing weight. um, but I haven't had Taco Bell in a year, like literally since we
Wow.
started working together, and I would have it every Friday. And I kind of miss it, but I also am like, it's not a big deal. I'm sure it's eventually at some point I'll have Taco Bell, but I think a lot of it was just recognizing like whether I was trying to eat something less nutritious as like a coping mechanism, or
Hmm.
like was I genuinely craving it and trying to recognize, am I going to feel good after I eat this, or am I going to immediately feel frustrated with myself for indulging in something that I really didn't need, but also not demonizing it? It's kind of like a weird, like, balancing act, I felt
Yeah.
like, of just letting myself have those things. And I definitely indulged over, the course of our time working together, but, quite rarely. And I still don't really even, like, miss it, or just finding ways to have a certain thing that I really like, but make it a little healthier. So I have like that red Korean like instant ramen. I would add like collagen powder and chicken and broccoli to it, so it would still
Hmm.
be, a decent amount of calories to eat, but I would also be adding things to it to make it like more nutritious and good for me. So still having that little fun food,
Hmm.
but twisting it in a way to make it, less bad.
Right, exactly. Think of it as a spectrum on what's
hmm
healthier and what's not healthy. I don't like good and bad or
Yeah.
healthy unhealthy, but
Yeah, I don't
there's
either. And I
that.
hate calling it a diet. I just say like nutrition.
Yeah.
Nutritious food, not bad food,
Mhm.
or less nutritious food. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do the same thing personally to where Taco Bell was once a staple of my diet as well.
Yeah.
And now I do this probably a couple times a week. I'll just cook hamburger meat or taco meat and I'll throw a little bit of cheese and like that's literally I'll just have like instead of taco salad or like tacos, I just have taco meat with cheese. And
hmm
most people probably see that as kind of crazy, but I like the taste of the meat over everything else that's thrown in, and so why not just eat that? And
Yeah.
so I'll eat like my dinner will be a half a pound of hamburger meat or a half a pound of taco meat with I'm using this ghost pepper cheddar jack or ghost pepper
Oh,
jack cheese and it's like really good.
that
Um,
sounds really good.
yeah. So I throw in like a quarter cup on that, and then I mix that up, and then like that was my dinner last night, and I'll probably have that for lunch today. And then same thing with burgers. Oh, I'll cook burgers and we'll eat it without the bun. Not because
Hmm.
carbs are bad, but because I would rather have two hamburger patties with cheese and a little bit of barbecue sauce than one full burger because I
Yeah.
like the taste of the meat over the taste of the bun. And so it's like those and protein. And so it's like those
Yeah.
types of mindset tweaks and shifts, like what you were doing, is great ways to have a best of both worlds. Like I'm getting my cravings, I'm satisfying my
Hmm.
cravings, and I'm keeping, like we said, facing the right direction, keeping the momentum going.
Yeah.
And one thing that you told me was a couple weeks ago how with work and with work stress really ramping up, you guys would have a lot of like either catered food or pizza, etc. And you would see people have their packed lunch and have like three slices of pizza, and you're over here. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I got my lunch. I'm good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like I just, would see that in my head. I'm like, am I better than everyone else? But not really. I'm not
Yeah.
shaming anyone for any of that. But it's kind of like a nice little like feeling for yourself of kind of like recognizing that you've made like that kind of shift in your
Hmm.
thinking and your lifestyle change, like enough to be like there have been days where the pizza, because we have like a monthly like lunch and learn and they order pizza, and so there's definitely been times where I've had a slice, but then, I, like you kind of mentioned, I budget my calories. So I'm like, okay, what do I have? And I am already planning in
Hmm.
my app, like, when am I going to eat later today to kind of compensate? Like, I still had that treat, but I still have to lock in for the rest, right? So,
Yep.
I'd focus on making sure that the rest of my day would look good. So rather than like what I'd done in the past where I'm like, oh, well, today's fucked anyway. Why don't I just eat whatever I want? I'm like, okay, I had that slice of pizza. Now I'm going to make sure whatever I eat the rest of the day is within, my macros as best as I can. And if I go a
Right.
little over, it's not the end of the world, and I didn't gain all of the weight that I had from eating one slice of pizza. So I'm not gonna, undo 8 months or 12 months of progress from having one Girl Scout cookie, or one slice of pizza.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where a lot of people, that mindset kind of falters is they'll have like one or two slices of pizza and they might indulge on like the weekend, and then they step on the scale and they're like 5 pounds higher. And in reality, I'm gonna do some quick math here. That's 17,000 calories. 5 pounds of tissue equals
Yeah.
17,000 calories, 17,500 calories. And so two slices of pizza is not 17,500 calories. And so what it is, it's
Yeah.
extra carbs, extra salt, water retention. Maybe you're still holding water. Maybe you're still sore from a workout that retains water. And so it's
Hmm.
like all these kind of compounding things to where the next few days you're probably just going to go back down
Yeah.
to what weight you were at. And so people see that spike in weight, and they're like, "Holy crap! I
Yeah.
just gained 5 pounds after eating two slices of pizza." When that's not the reality.
Yeah, and it's hard, and it's even like even just, kind of be just over the weekend kind of being like, okay, I think, I've been in a cut for like a year. I'm ready to do maintenance calories. And I
Hmm.
even still had to struggle with saying maintenance is not bad. You're
Yeah.
maintaining the same weight. I still kind of had a little bit of an internal struggle like, oh, I'm adding more calories. I still kind of wanted to cut a little bit, but I was like, I really kind of want to start gaining more strength again. So it's really just kind of reminding yourself, like, the scale just goes up and down so much, even just day to day. And I would have that struggle a lot in the beginning too, just seeing the scale go like that. But then
Hmm.
when you like really zoom out, and whenever I would go into trainer eyes and look, I'd be like, oh my god, but look at the overall. It's like there's a lot of like noise, but then you see that the line, if you drew a straight line, it's still going down. So having to
Hmm.
recognize that, like, as long as the trend is going the direction you want, you're good. And yeah, it's like you would have had to eat probably like two pizzas by yourself to actually gain that 5 pounds, and then
Yeah.
also not go to the bathroom at some point between now and that point, which is like, I don't know, that much cheese. I would probably have gone to the bathroom several times at that point. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And I can put a screenshot on of Trainer Eyes here. But we saw that, and I think like when we did our first testimonial, we were just shifting to more of a maintenance slash bulk,
hmm.
and that was, I believe, at the end of the year, and we saw like a
Yeah.
5-ish pound spike, and then we started tapering down. But then we were also going back into a maintenance, and if you recall, over the last 3, 4 months, our weight has been hitting all-time lows, and I believe we've
Hmm.
still been kind of at like either mild deficit or maintenance, while
Yeah.
strength has been gaining, and that's something that I wanted
Yeah.
to really um, touch on today is talking about how we were seeing not only our body weight drop, albeit not the fastest because we're kind of doing a couple things at once, but our
Hmm.
strength gains are also increasing, which is
Yeah.
most of the time counterintuitive. So you're either
Yeah.
having weight gain and strength gains or vice versa. And so let's talk about how we were able to do that. Okay, so how did we structure the workouts and the nutrition? We talked about nutrition. Oh, actually, I do want to shift gears real quick because you talked about something that I wanted to bring up. You talked about how when people are, you're eating their pizza and eating their lunches, and you're sitting over here not caving into the cravings. You have that form of elitism. You're like, am I better than everybody? Um,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's you like almost quite literally leveling up to where a year ago I would have been in that position. And it's like when you're playing a
Hmm.
game. I don't play MMO, so this might not be 100% accurate. But let's say you're playing an MMO and you've been playing for a while, and you see these people who are newer players and they're struggling with this particular raid boss, and you could maybe do like you could maybe one shot that boss or something like that,
Hmm.
and you're like, I remember when I was in that position. I mean, these people are peasants compared to me now, but I remember when I was in that position, and that is no longer even an issue for me. And so that's kind of how I feel having that mindset to where it's like these cravings don't even don't even dent my armor anymore because of how leveled up we are and how locked in we are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely 100%. It was just, my own progress was proof enough that, well, I could indulge in that. I was like, it's kind of like I would weigh these decisions like, okay, is this really worth it? And not, and again, I was never demonizing the food and saying this is bad, I shouldn't eat it. It
Hmm.
was more just like, is this really going to be worth kind of all the work I have to do later in the day to balance my meals? It was more like, do I have the effort to fix the rest of my meal for the rest of the day to account for this? And I'd be like, you know what? I don't even feel like doing that. I'm just going to eat whatever I already have here and not worry about it.
Right, and then some days you would indulge in
Yeah,
it, and it would be totally fine. And so it's not like you're
yeah,
completely
exactly.
cutting that out.
Hmm. Yeah, especially for like we had like it was originally someone was going to have to leave the company because they didn't get their security clearance, but then they literally got it the last day, and we were having a pizza party either way. So I was like, well, it was a celebration because we thought we were going to lose someone, and then he got to stay. So obviously I'm going to have some pizza and celebrate. And that was back in February, and I still lost fat, gained strength. So obviously it didn't ruin everything, and it was
Yeah.
just like two slices of pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever feel like the nutrition was too strict, or that you were cutting
No,
yourself out from stuff that you really, really wanted?
no, really, I really didn't. I feel like I said, I feel like the nutrition and the exercise was honestly just the easiest part because, I just had guidance from someone saying, just stick to this and it's good. And I think a lot of times in the past I would struggle because I would eat definitely not enough. I definitely, struggled with something that I think a lot of more like shorter or petite women will struggle with saying, "Oh, I got to eat 1,200 calories. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all I can eat." And that's miserable. But you never had me on a deficit like that. It was, and I think a big problem that I know I struggled with, and I think I see in a lot of other people, is they're trying to rush like this weight loss. They're like, I want to
Yeah.
lose X pounds of fat in X amount of time. And so then you end up with this crazy deficit where you're not eating enough, and then you're just gonna relapse at some point because at some point you're like, I need more food. Like I'm starving. I'm miserable. But I feel like we were pretty much always between like 15 and 1600 calories for
Hmm.
my caloric budget, with a lot of protein. So a lot of times because I was eating so much protein, I was always full. Like I would have days where I was like, I don't want to eat another damn piece of food. Like I can't eat anything else right now. I'm so full. Like I've been having we just air fry like a baked potato every night for like the last week, and I'm sitting there just over my potato like, oh my god, I can't eat anymore. I'm so full, but I need to eat this. Like I need to be fueling what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the fact that you kind of were like, let's just do this, and I know initially in my head, I think I was kind of like, oh, that's like way more calories than like I've eaten in the past. Like, how am I going to lose weight on this? But it was a, it wasn't like, ooh, and I see this all the time on YouTube, and it makes me cringe now. That's like 2 months to lose 60 pounds. And I'm just like, what? Are you going to eat like a piece of lettuce every day and nothing else? It's hard to see that, but it's like once you're on the other side of it, you recognize that doing it more slowly and sustainably is always going to pay off
Hmm.
because I think the chances of you falling off of that are going to be, a lot less because you're not starving yourself. You're still nourishing yourself, even if it wasn't like, a fun, exciting meal. You're at least, doing something good for your body, and you're doing it in a more manageable way than just like crash dieting, eating 1,000 calorie deficit and, eating nothing. And a lot of people don't even prioritize protein. I know I
Yeah.
didn't in the past. I would just be like, here's my calories, that's it. I can eat
Hmm.
whatever I want within that. But it wasn't nutritious. I was still hungry, or never eating carbs, so never having energy to even work out. A lot of those things. So it's like once you get on the other side, you realize, wow, that was no wonder it never worked.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times people will have the standard American diet, sad,
Hmm.
of course. They'll just take that and they'll just taper it way down to where they are eating maybe 2,500 to 3,000 calories, and then they drop it down significantly to like 12 to 1,500, and
Hmm.
without prioritizing protein. So they're having
Yeah.
a high carb, high fat diet, which is like and low protein, which is like the exact opposite of what you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they are overly restricting themselves. Like you said, if your goal is to lose 60 pounds in 2 months, you better be weighing over 600 pounds,
Yeah,
because that's the
exactly.
only time that's actually feasible. Um,
Yeah, it was hard to recognize that it was going to be at first it was going to be like a slower process, but then, I think basically around like by the time we did our first check-in after like 6 months of working together, I was like, this is working. And I just need and it's like they say it's like a journey, not a destination, but to me it's like there is no destination. It's just a
mhm.
journey and you're on it perpetually and you're stopping at places along the way. Because I know people joke. I saw like a meme that was talking about like it was like, oh, in the gym, when are you ever happy with your physique? And they're like, you're not. So it was like, the goalpost is like always moving, but I
Mhm.
feel like it's like you get to that. It's almost like, oh my God, I'm dating myself back, like thinking of playing like Cruising USA on like the old arcade consoles. Um, but in Cruising USA, you'd always have like that first checkpoint. So it's like my first checkpoint was, okay, I want to get to 145 pounds, which is like I think like 25 pounds of weight loss from like the highest I was at. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to get to whatever my next
Mhm.
checkpoint in, which is probably more like bench 95 pounds, which I'm almost at, and squat my body weight, which I'm like about 20, 25 pounds from. So it's like the goalposts are moving in the sense that, I'm always going to be trying to be better than I was at the last checkpoint. And just kind of keep moving it. And it's because it's not like I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm just going to stop doing it now. Like,
Yeah.
I want to keep doing it. I want to keep doing it for my health. And it's awesome when someone's like, oh, do you need help carrying that? And I'm like, nope. I pick it up at work and I just keep going. Or the super jacked dad that I see at work every now and then. I only see him, maybe like once a month, if that, just because he works in a different area. But like when he sees me and he's like, turns to my coworker, like, do you see her? She's jacked. And I'm just like, oh, that's the best feeling. It's like, okay, I just got to keep going because I want that reaction every time I see them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely something about having that extrinsic motivation.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just posted in your story yesterday, 2 days ago, about how you're starting your Muscle Mommy arc. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
100%, yeah.
Nice. And yeah, so circling back to nutrition, what we kind of had you at now, because you're baby phoenix flying the nest, and so we had you at 1,400 calories, 123 grams of protein, 123 grams of carbs, and 47 grams of fat, which we talked about just really prioritizing protein and calories. And so you've been doing
Hmm.
obviously a really good job with all that. But that is 35% of your calories come from protein, which is admittedly probably a little bit higher than what most people would start. Actually, most people are probably like sub 20%, but
Hmm.
it's not outlandish, right? Like the reason why I'm
Yeah.
bringing this up is because we didn't do anything that's like super extreme, super crazy, albeit you probably in the most, yeah, because most of my clients don't do macros, but you were on the more intense side, but it still wasn't overly intense or overwhelming, correct?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it was like, obviously I wanted to lose body fat, but I think another, huge thing, and and I know you watched me in real time waffle, like, oh, do I want to lose more fat or do I want to get more
Yeah.
swole? I don't know which one I want, and you really can't do both at the same time. You really got to lock in on one or the other, hence like cutting and bulking cycles. But you know, wanting to get more strength was kind of like the overall objective. It's kind of like I wanted to lose some fat, but really focus on getting strength just for my own satisfaction and for the
Hmm.
health benefits that come with it. So yeah, even though the protein was honestly, I would almost always go over my protein because my husband and I we buy pretty much everything we get for food wise like at Costco. And so, we would get tons of like protein heavy or protein focused like snacks or things that would have a lot of protein in them. So, obviously, like bars and obviously, whey protein, like always. But then, we would have like the frozen chicken nuggets. Like, those actually have pretty good, like, stuff that you wouldn't think has really good macros actually does.
Hmm.
And so, whenever we would go shopping, we would look for things that we would try to hit the golden ratio of like 10 calories per gram of protein or something pretty close.
Hmm.
And so having that in mind, it made it a lot easier to make sure that if I was kind of feeling a little snacky and wanted something else to have, I would have something in the house that would contribute to those goals. So,
Yeah.
most of the time I was always going over my protein macro anyway, just because that's just what we had in the house. And we would have like some like fun snacks in the house. Like we had like protein tortilla chips, which weren't really as close to the 10 to 1 ratio, but that was filling that craving of having some like tortilla chips because I could sit and eat a whole bag of tortilla chips and salsa like in a sitting.
Yeah.
But finding an alternative that's like, okay, this isn't as bad, and I can have like 1 or 2 ounces of them and have like a little thing of guac that they have at Costco, and that's filling a craving, but still helping me move towards that goal without being, super detrimental to that or, sticking within the macros and stuff like that. But yeah, the nutrition never felt like restrictive or difficult or extreme. Like I never felt that way about it at all. And I had never eaten like this in the past either. Like I had tried, but I don't think I had really ever adhered to it as much as I, have in the last year.
Hmm. I would say that your biggest key to success was probably how consistent you've been. Because I think
Yeah. I
over the
kind of was surprised by myself. Like I don't know how I did it. Like I always joke my third eye probably opened and I was just like locking in like the, like hacker man, but instead of
Mhm.
that with like protein and macros.
Yeah, and workouts. Because I think you told me the other day that over the last year you've maybe missed what, like 4 workouts.
It's probably maybe somewhere, I think it's less than 10 over the last year. And I was doing 4 like lifting days a week. And
Hmm.
I think I've missed less than 10. Just because if I did miss one, I would miss one, but not two. So I
Yeah.
would maybe miss one, but then shift it to the next day instead, at the very least. I think there's only maybe between 5 and 10 that I just absolutely didn't do because
Hmm.
of being sick or, whatever the case may be. If I was feeling maybe a little kind of crappy one day, I'd be like, okay, I won't do it today. I'll do some like steps on my walking pad or take the dog for a long walk, but I will do this workout tomorrow. And
Hmm.
then almost every time I would always do it.
Yeah, hitting those BAMs, and then, like you said, the
Mhm.
next day pick it back
Yeah.
up, which is perfect. Rather than I am missing my third workout of the week, I might as well just skip my third and fourth and start fresh on Monday,
Yeah.
which is
Which
a
would
lot.
happen a lot in the past, yeah.
Yep, yep. Let's talk about those workouts. I know we kind of
Mhm.
teased it a little bit before, but we kind of crafted a routine that allowed us to lose roughly, what did we lose, 20, 15, 20 pounds over the last year.
Yeah, yeah, something like
Wow.
that.
While seeing some pretty significant gains, and I can kind of pull up our estimated 1RMs here if we wanted to go that far in depth. But how did give me the structure on how the workouts? We talked about we did a 4-day split. It was an
Mhm.
alternating upper lower split. How
Yeah.
did those feel, and what did those kind of look like?
They were good. So, we did all of the main compound lists. So it would be, one day with bench, and then it would basically be like like chest and like biceps, triceps, like alternating circuit. And then we'd have a squat day, which funnily enough started as my favorite day, became my least favorite day. I hate squat day now because it's so hard.
Yep.
um, we'd have squats and then like leg accessories, and it would be like quad heavy day, and then rest day or like active rest day, and then the next day would be overhead press and like shoulders back, which kind of became my favorite day because I want to get like a super shredded back someday.
Hmm.
And then the last day would be like deadlift day, with like hamstring focus, like accessories and stuff like that. Um, and you know that I mean lifting picking up heavy circles and putting them down has always been my favorite. I used to be like cardio girly, like, oh, this is how I'm going to lose my weight, and I did a lot of that, but I hated running. My legs are like 2 inches long, so like my stride is horrible. And when I run with my husband, who when he has like I think like a 32 or a 33-inch inseam on his pants, he's just like, what's wrong? Why aren't you running faster? I'm just like, my legs are like 2 feet shorter than yours. I can't do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, the lifting has always been really fun, and it's you know, even though as a woman you basically have like a week every month where you're kind of like useless and your strength is just like gone, but then like 2 weeks later you'll feel like Wonder Woman and you can just lift everything.
Hmm.
Um, but that's always been the funnest part is seeing like those gains. So it would be nice because if I was feeling like my weight wasn't really moving a whole lot, the actual physical weights of what I was lifting would be going up.
Yeah.
Um, and gradually over time, you know, those workouts would pay off in real life. So there's like, you know, a couple hills on the hike that I do with my dog that used to be like kind of tiring, and now I just like zoom right up them. Like there's a pretty steep hill to get out of the trail, and I used to be kind of like winded from that, and now I just blast right through it.
Nice.
And then we had to move a bunch of equipment at work once, and we had to like relocate some servers to an area, and someone actually came to me and was like, hey, can you come help me move these? Like they asked me. And there's a bunch of big strong guys on the team. They came and asked me to help move it. And then like I remember I was like going to pick up a monitor, and I just like was like, okay, I gotta grab it. And then I was like, oh, like I can actually like lift this like ladder with like a lat raise. I was like, oh, I didn't think I could like do that. I thought I was gonna have to, you know, reach over and get it. But um, you know, they really ended up paying off outside of, you know, my home gym so
Hmm.
much just by, you know, gaining the strength gradually over time. And we did a lot of like kind of mixing things up. Like, you know, if I really hated a specific accessory, like lunges, I would be like, can you never give these to me again? But now I feel like a psychopath because I like Bulgarian split squats now.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
are a
know what
psychopath.
happened. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just feel like a badass now, just like pushing through them.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's like, you know, we would keep it the same for like about a month, and the overall structure would stay the same, but the accessories would change up. So if I was, it was good because I would kind of be like, oh, man, okay, I'm tired of like doing this accessory. Um, we'd be like, okay, we're gonna mix up the accessories. So the compound list would always stay the same, but
Hmm.
then the accessories would change, which kept it really fresh while still really doing the same things. Um, but then also, if I was like, hey, you know, I don't want to use the conventional bar for, you know, for a conventional deadlift, I want to do like my trap bar, you know, you'd be like, okay, we'll adjust it for that. So I felt like it was always really flexible where if something wasn't working for me, or maybe if like a specific lift I wasn't feeling quite confident, you would quickly just flip it for like an alternative that did the same thing, just in a way that, you know, maybe felt a little bit better. Like, I remember at some point, probably like in the second half, you had me doing like I think I was doing split squats, but with the barbell instead of just like a free weight.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do that. I'm a little scared. And so you switched it, but then like the next week I tried it again, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can do them. I was just being you know, a scaredy cat. So you just added them right back in. So it was really a nice like team effort of, you know, you check it, we check in every other week, and you'd say, is this working for you? Do you like this? And I would say, yeah, I like this one, or no, I don't
Hmm.
like that one. And then you know, we'd occasionally do maybe kind of like a little bit of like a deload where I'd still be doing my workouts, but it was kind of like almost like a break in a sense where
Yeah.
I kind of got to pull back a little bit, recover a little bit, but then get right back into things. So it was a nice kind of just like ebb and flow of kind of feeling where I was during a given, 2 week period and then adjusting, on the fly as we needed to.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And we would definitely we would have check-in calls every other week, but we would do like
Hmm.
daily texts and stuff like that Monday through
Yeah.
Friday just to kind of see how things are going. So there was never
Hmm.
like a time where I was out of the loop. And
Yeah.
like I've mentioned before, and you just mentioned, you were very much an active participant in like the program design. So that way we knew it had a better chance of feeling appropriate rather than you
Yeah.
just being like a yes or no sir person. And
Hmm.
so that kept things going well. And then
Yeah.
we would keep the main conventional lifts, but we would change the reps up to kind of keep
Yeah.
things keep a
Hmm.
variety going. Which, speaking of which, I have your numbers here. We can kind of go over quickly. You started off your this is estimated one rep max because we never really went to a true one RM.
Hmm.
But you started off bench estimated was 81, and recently was 108. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so you said you're getting close to that 95. I think you can
Yeah.
hit it. Hit it for definitely a heavy
At least
single.
one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Squat, we had 126, and then we got up to like 162, which
Oh, wow.
is significant. That's a significant bump.
Yeah, I mean, I just did 4 sets of 8 of 120 the other day, so that makes me feel awesome.
Yeah, pretty soon you'll be in the one plate club, right?
Yeah, yeah, almost. So close.
Yeah, yep. Overhead press, which I think you were talking about how you really liked seeing the gains from that. We
Yeah,
saw,
that one's really hard.
yeah, it is. It is a hard because your shoulders are small muscles,
Yeah.
just like in general, not yours per se.
Yeah.
But we started off at 63, got up to 76 ish, 70,
Yeah.
no, yeah, 76 ish. So a 10-pound bump in that, and then I think the biggest one was deadlift. So we did trap bar. Yeah, we started off at 160, 159, and got up to 228.
Oh, wow.
So
Damn.
yeah, yeah. So all of this while losing roughly 15 pounds.
Yeah.
So we lost weight at a relatively steady pace and gained strength at a relatively steady pace. And so it was because nutrition was on point, at a proper caloric and protein range. And then you were just really locked in with the workouts and hitting
Hmm.
those and hitting heavy workouts at like 4 in the morning, which is ridiculous.
No, it's more like 5, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we first started working together, you said that you would wake up, take your pre-workout, and then lay back down for 30 minutes before it
Yep.
kicked in.
I have an alarm to slam my pre-workout at 4:30, and then I kind of lay back down for like another 20 minutes, and then I get up and go work out. Because if I don't do it before work, it's probably not going to happen after work, especially the way work just got progressively busier and busier over like the last year. I'm glad that I do it in the morning, because
Yeah.
otherwise, because I get home and I got to take care of my dog, and then by the time I've tired him out, my husband's home and we eat dinner. So, and the evenings are for, rotting on the couch and like playing games or whatever. So I got to get it done in the morning or it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
And then like I
absolutely.
think you said one time it's like I get the hardest part of my day over
Hmm.
with. And I've mentioned to you before how, honestly, the workouts became like the thing that kept me sane, because this was
Yeah.
the thing that I always would know it's going to go like this. Maybe I'll do a little more weight today or not, but it would be like the one thing that was always consistent during the day or during the week. So even when work was crazy, I knew that even if work was going crazy and I wasn't feeling like I was getting wins at my job because things were just going the way they were, I would at least know that, hey, I'm kicking ass in the gym, so I've got that going for me, even if work is even if work is going crazy. So
Yeah.
it was definitely the heavy circles were my therapy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, iron therapy. Yeah, no, I was actually going to bring that up about how this last few months of work have been like pretty crazy for you,
Hmm.
and you've been insanely consistent with nutrition and workouts
Yeah.
because you're seeing them, like you said, as that sense of normalcy, as that rock, if you will, but also as stress relief rather
Yeah.
than like if you're doing 'em after work. Sometimes people see them as a stressor. But
Hmm.
also, workouts right after work can be a really good buffer between work life and real life, and it could be that way
Hmm.
to just really physically work out that stress. Um,
Yeah.
so, just being
Yeah, I
able
mean,
to see,
it was funny because just the other day we were talking about like planning for Dragon Con coming up in a month, and I was like, we're still gonna work out at Dragon Con, right? Like, I was like, we're still gonna, because it'll be like a Thursday, Friday, and then a Monday and the Tuesday we fly back. So I'll do it, after I fly back in the morning. But he was like, yeah, we are. Don't worry. And I was like, okay, good. Just making sure. Like, still
Yeah.
got the gains don't stop for the Dragon Con.
Right, right. And that was something that I think we talked about on our first
Yeah,
testimonial
early
that
on.
that you yeah, because it was within like a couple months of us working together that you
Yeah.
we modified the workouts to appease what gym access you had,
hmm
and we really focused on nutrition by planning meals. Well, why don't you talk about it? I don't need to control the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, what we did was we kind of like game planned in advance. So, you kind of like you basically gave me like a wiggle room of like 300 extra calories, which was probably kind of like my maintenance at that point. I was basically, I could go between 1500 and 1800. And when we got there, we actually, because our friend lives in Atlanta, so we went to like a grocery store and we got some like protein shakes and some like, and we brought like a bunch of bars and like anything that was smaller that we could bring. And I think we even brought some protein powder with us because, that's easy to pack. Um, but it was a lot of just kind of like setting myself up for success before I even got on the plane.
Hmm.
So, increasing calories, increasing like basically like a caloric range, and then, just planning the workouts ahead, and then also bringing things. But then also we kind of like, because we've been going to Dragon Con for several years at that point, so we knew of places to eat. So we pretty much they have like a super quick like firehouse subs where there was one where you could get whatever you want, but then they had another like small quick express one because there's so many people there. That was like we only have like these three sandwiches, and they had like just like a turkey sandwich with whatever. And so I would get that and then have half of it for the lunch, and then I'd have the other half for my dinner with
Nice.
my other things that I brought mixed in. And we definitely had a night like when we go. Our routine is our friend picks us up from the airport and we go to Vortex, which is this awesome like burger place. And so I had the burger and I had the fries. So I still had like I do this every year. I'm gonna have my burger. I look forward to it. It's like a giant burger. But then after that, we did the gym. Obviously, you do a ton of walking at a convention,
Hmm.
especially Dragon Con, because it's not in a convention center. It's like 5 hotels within like the downtown area. So if I want to go from my hotel at the top of the hill to the Hilton at the bottom of the hotel, I walk all the way down. But then I got to walk all the way back up to get back to my hotel. So tons of walking, but all that to say, yeah, it was just a lot of like, okay, let's game plan. Let's figure out what's gonna make us successful during this trip. And then I still ate out like a couple times. We went to like a place and I got like a chicken salad that had some sauce. So, still just like having fun, indulging, but making smarter choices
Hmm.
rather than just going for, ooh, I want to feel good and have this really unhealthy thing. It was more like, well, I could have that, but this looks a little bit of a better choice and still tasty. And my husband and I were just talking about, like, oh, let's go back there. That salad was really good. We'll get that again. So just like, yeah, like, kind of like planning your attack before you even leave. And then it just makes it that much easier because you've already got the game plan in your head. And because it's like if I come home and I have nothing to eat, well, oh, I might do DoorDash or something in the
Yeah.
past. But when you already know what your options are, it gets rid of like that decision fatigue. Where you've been walking all day and you're like, oh, well, I can just go eat this, or I already have this half of the sandwich. So just lots of planning ahead, I think, was the main reason for success there. And that was early on. It was like a month and a half ish after we started working together. So
Hmm.
we had already, started game planning and figuring out how to navigate, things like conventions and stuff like way early on, which was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, just like you said, planning ahead, having that right mindset of that flexibility, those are all like main drivers to what has given you success throughout this entire year. And so that's good, kind of like a micro example of how your entire year went, pretty much. Okay, perfect. Um, yeah, so we're coming up at time. So, last thing, what do you say to people who are on the fence about coaching, or maybe they were traveling that same path that you were when we first started working together, and they're kind of hesitant to take the plunge?
I would say, at least in my case, it was, I had really tried a lot of times on my own. And I think sometimes, and I think we've even talked about it, it's not a sign of weakness to rely on someone else for help. And I think
Hmm.
this is all really out of your own mouth saying, it's not a weakness to ask for help. And, basically, like, I'm putting all of that work, that mental work of figuring things out on you. and you're
Hmm.
developing the plan, and the coach is there to help you, support you. You're doing the work, but someone else is basically taking that load off of you instead. So it's like, in D&D, it's not one person that's a jack of all trades doing everything. You've got someone healing and someone doing damage and then someone doing magic. So, I can't do all of it myself. At least at the time, I didn't. I had so many different, it's like, especially nowadays, social media, you're just like, someone says do this, someone says do that, and like, who do you listen to? Like, they're
Right.
both saying probably like conflicting things. People are like, oh my God, the rotisserie chicken from Costco is going to kill you. But I think if you find the right coach, and you were definitely like the perfect coach for what I needed at the time, to have someone who has been through what I've been through, because that was a big thing for me. Was, no shade to like the super skinny, super jacked like people that are on social media, but for me, I needed to find someone that could relate to the struggles I've experienced and was dealing with. So someone
Hmm.
who's, you know, been in a place with their fitness that they weren't happy with, but then used various tools to get to where they want to be. I knew you were someone who's been there and would
Hmm.
be able to understand like what I was going through. Maybe not exact specific things, but the general overview. And I would just say, like, it's okay to get help. It's really hard, especially if you've never done it before. I know that now my thing is, well, is bulking really going to help me gain muscle? Is it really going to do it? That's my thing. Is in the past I had lost weight, but not like a ton. And I had never gained like significant muscle or been very strong. So I was like, well, I don't know, is it really going to work? And then, like you said, I would try for a couple months and then fall off.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, obviously this doesn't work. I did it for 3 months. Obviously it's not going to work or do anything. But having someone there that can, hold you accountable, that can basically be that rock to remind you, like, this is going to work. You just have to keep going. Like, you just have to keep doing it. It For me, it was really helpful. And I think you even mentioned it in one of your other calls with someone that, having that external accountability for me, I think is what I really needed. Because my
Hmm.
husband has always been my biggest cheerleader. But, the second I would be like, oh, I'm tired, he's like, well, weren't you going to work out today? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm tired. And then he's like, okay,
Yeah, all the
I'm off,
defenses come up.
and he would push a little bit more, but it was having that external person like, hey, I spent money on this, so I kind of have to do this, and I'm not going to waste it.
Right.
Because I was looking at like a surgery I wanted to get, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do that until I'm done with my year of training, because otherwise I'm going to waste like 2 months of not being able to be doing lifting and stuff like that. But I think it's such a good investment, because it's not just aesthetics. It's also like a mental change that is so beneficial in so many ways, and then also the just the health benefits, like just being knowing that as I get older, like because I can almost do like a full pistol squat now, and like I
Okay.
was reading something about how important like your leg strength is for your health as you get older.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people who are younger than me are probably like, whatever, that's fine. But, as I get older, I'm thinking about, I want to be able to just get up off the ground without using my hands, which I can do now. But I want to be old and still be able to do that.
Yeah.
There's like, I forget her name, but she's like this old grandma who's really popular on Instagram for like weightlifting. I was like, I want to be that.
The
I want to
Granny
be that
Gains.
cool, yeah, I want to be that cool, jacked old lady that people are like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because my neighbor is actually an older, woman, and she's so nice, but she's had like a lot of falls and things like that. And so I want to be able to know that, as I age, I won't have to worry about that quite as much. I
Hmm.
want to be able to know that, maybe I won't have falls, or if I do, it won't be as like significant of, a health risk or something like that. So do it for future you.
Yeah, I like that. Yes,
Yeah.
muscular strength is the leading variable in fall risk. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times that's determined by grip strength. So people will say grip strength is directly correlated to fall risk, but it's just overall muscular strength and balance,
Yeah.
which balance comes from strength. And so, yes, a lot of that is building that strength. Like you said, if you can stand up without using your hands at 80 years old, you are doing
Yeah.
a lot of things right.
Yeah.
And where most people can't even get out of a chair unassisted. And so,
Yeah,
no.
and even like I got my blood work done just for like my annual physical a couple months ago. And all my results were really good. She was going through the list like, oh, you do this? Okay. Well, what about this? I'm like, oh, I eat like this much protein. She's like, oh, okay. Like she was going through like, okay, you're good. You're good. And I know that, I'm like, exercise is only one part of the whole equation. You really
Yeah.
need to nourish yourself, and it does a lot, not even just for like your internal health, but just like energy levels, your mental health. There's so many things that it benefits. It's not just aesthetics, and it's hard. I think initially that's all we really care about is I just want
Hmm.
to lose the fat and look good, but as I've gone on through this and continuing, it's like it's so much more than that, and it's just so many benefits. There's really no negatives to it other than maybe feeling sore every now and then.
Awesome. Well, perfect. I think that's a good place to end it. Kristen,
Yeah.
I appreciate you hopping on again for a second round. And I know this
Yeah.
is kind of your fleeing the nest, but we talked about doing
Definitely.
potentially a follow up as we kind of what do the where are they now type of thing after
Yeah.
a few months or a year or so of
Hopefully
you
super
continuing.
jacked.
Yeah, yeah, do the old buff bunny. Well,
Uh-huh.
cool, cool. I appreciate it, and I guess until next time.
Yeah.